What does it mean to live well? To govern oneself, not by impulse but by reason. To find peace, not in possessions or power, but in the harmony of the soul? These questions are not new. They were asked nearly 2,000 years ago by Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and philosopher of the Stoic tradition. Today, we will explore his life, his thought, and 6 guiding principles from his meditations that remain profoundly relevant to our modern existence. History remembers him not merely as a ruler, but as the embodiment of the philosopher king, a man who, despite the burden of empire, sought wisdom above glory and integrity above ambition. His private writings, collected under the title Meditations, were never intended for an audience. They are fragments of self-examination, reminders to himself of how one ought to live. And yet, paradoxically, it is this very privacy, this earnest struggle to live according to reason, that makes them so enduring. The philosophy that shaped Marcus is Stoicism, first articulated in Athens by Zeno of Citium and later cultivated by Roman thinkers such as Seneca and Epictetus. At its heart, Stoicism is not a cold detachment from life, as it is sometimes caricatured, but rather a discipline of the mind and soul, an art of living in accordance with nature, guided by virtue and fortified against the turbulence of fortune. Control what you can, accept what you cannot. Marcus constantly reminded himself that we are masters only of our judgments and our actions. External events, the storms of politics, the inevitability of death, the whims of others lie beyond our command. To resist them is to exhaust oneself in futility. Instead, he counseled acceptance. This is not resignation, but strength, to devote our energy only to what depends on us and to bear the rest with dignity. The power of perspective. An obstacle, Marcus observed, is never merely an impediment. It is also an opportunity. Misfortune becomes the ground upon which courage is practiced. Injustice summons justice. Hardship awakens endurance. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This profound shift of perspective allows us to turn adversity itself into a form of progress. The impermanence of life. For Marcus Aurelius, the brevity of human life was not a source of despair, but of clarity. Empires crumble, reputations fade, even memory itself dissolves into the currents of time. Recognizing this transience, we are freed from vanity. We learn to cherish the present, to act justly in the fleeting moment allotted to us, for nothing is truly ours except the character with which we live. Duty and service. Although emperor, Marcus saw power not as license, but as obligation. He wrote, "A man's worth is measured by the object of his devotion. To him, this meant serving the common good." His reign was marked by plagues, wars, and political unrest. Yet he bore them not with indulgence, but with a sense of responsibility. For us, the lesson is clear. To live well is to orient ourselves towards service, whether to family, community, or humanity itself. Mastering the mind. Perhaps the most stoic of Marcus's reflections is this: the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Happiness, therefore, is not dictated by circumstance, but cultivated within. If we guard our minds against envy, anger, and despair, and instead train them toward reason and virtue, no misfortune can truly enslave us. It is the sovereignty of the inner life that grants us freedom. Living with virtue. All of Stoicism rests upon the 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Marcus understood that to live in harmony with nature is to live in harmony with these principles: wealth, pleasure, even survival itself. These are secondary. What matters is whether we act with integrity, whether our choices reflect the best of what it means to be human. For virtue alone, said Marcus, is sufficient for happiness. Marcus Aurelius ruled the greatest empire of his age, yet his deepest concern was not conquest or legacy, but how to govern the self. His meditations reveal a man wrestling not with the world outside, but with the soul within, seeking to live with reason, compassion, and strength. In our own time of uncertainty and distraction, his wisdom remains luminous: to control what lies within, to transform obstacles into paths, to remember the brevity of life, to serve others, to master our minds, and to live by virtue. These are not relics of antiquity, but living principles. So I leave you with a question. Which of these principles will you make your own? For philosophy, as Marcus knew, is not to be admired from afar, but to be lived daily, earnestly, and with courage.